Harriet Tubman. How are you, Harriet?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Mr. Depew, for having me today.
Well, you know, I just heard that recently Sarah Bradford, I believe a good Quaker lady, has had an opportunity to interview you, and she just published a book in 1869 about your life.
Yes, she did.
So I'm going to cover a lot of the same territory that she covered in that interview, but thrilled that you agreed to do this with us, and thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome, kind sir, and I have the book with me.
Oh, my.
This is it. It's a very nice book.
Yeah.
I can't read it, but it's a very nice book.
Well, somebody obviously has been reading and is already pretty well worn. Wondered if you could start with where I like to start all my interviews and tell us a little bit about your background and specifically when and where you were born.
Well, I was born in Dorchester County, Maryland, somewhere around 1820. Might have been 1821, 1822. 1823, because you see, I was born a slave, and nobody cares about a slave having a birthday. But nevertheless, I was born in Dorchester County on Master Brodus's plantation.
What do you know about your parents?
Well, I know them very well because they still live with me, even today. We were there as a family on Master Brodus's plantation. My mama's name was Harriet Green Ross, and my papa's name was Benjamin Ross. And we lived right there in a little cabin on Master Brodus's plantation with my sisters and my brothers. We all lived there.
Do you know much about their own background, their own history?
Whose history now?
Your parents.
Oh, the only thing I remember my mama saying was that she was pure African. There wasn't not one drop of white blood flowing through her veins or those of my papa. So I guess I'm African as well.
Okay. How much do you remember about your early childhood?
About the only thing I remember from childhood was not a very good memory, Mr. Depew. But I remember I was watching Miss Susie's baby. She had a little baby in a crib. I was supposed to watch her. Now, I'm like 6 or 7 years old myself, and my job as a slave child was to watch the baby. Well, the baby's come to crying and just crying and crying. She wouldn't shut up, and I was rocking her, and I rocked her so hard, kind of tipped over the crib there. Of course, now, Miss Susie got very angry. She beat me, told me never to come in the house no more. So that wasn't a good memory, but I thought it was kind of not too good that me, a child of 6 or 7, having to take care of a baby.
Well, I understand there was a time very early in your life also that you ran away.
Well, I didn't run away. My friend tried to run away. You see, Master Brodus, this was when I was like a teenager, 12, 13, somewhere along in there. Master Brodus had sent me and my friend, after all these years, I can't rightly recall his name, so I'll just call him Sam. Sent me and Sam into town to the general store to get some provisions, you know, for the plantation. Flour, sugar, things like that. And come to find out as me and Sam was walking there, Sam told me that he had had an urge to be free. Now, he was telling me about his plan and what he wanted to try to do while we was in the general store. And he said, Harriet, you, I guess you would say, you keep the attention. That'd be a good word, wouldn't you think? Of the storekeep, while I try to make a run out the back door of the store into the woods and get on the road to freedom. Well, I thought that sounded like a pretty good plan to me, so I tried to do what Sam wanted me to do, and while we was in the store, I was just kind of talking to the storekeep and trying to keep his attention on me, but he was kind of looking at Sam, because Sam was kind of just hanging around and looking kind of odd. I guess I don't know the other word to call it. And I guess the storekeep kind of got an inkling as to what we was trying to do, so he picked up a weight. You know, the weight they put on the scale. It weighed about 3-4 pounds. Picked it up and hurled it at Sam. trying to stop him from going out the back door. Well, didn't hit Sam, hit me in the head, knocked me plumb out. Yes, it did, and I still have a scar. That's why I wear this scarf all the time, because I have a scar. Knocked me plumb out. Caused me to suffer from what my mama called the sleeping sickness, you see. And I would just kind of fall asleep at the drop of a hat. After that happened to me, and from that wound, my mama nursed me and whatnot, but Master Broder said I wasn't worth a plug nickel no more. Said I wasn't even fit to be sold. So, but my mama, she nursed me back. And I got to be strong and good, but I never did, like I said before. I never did work no more in the house. I worked out in the fields with my papa.
Well, that had to be hard work. How tall are you?
Well, I don't rightly know. How tall is you?
Well, I'm taller than you. I'm about 6 foot, and I've heard that you're about 5 feet tall.
Something like that. That sounds about right. But, I don't.
But you had a prodigious nature of working hard.
I had a what?
Yeah, you could work hard in the fields from what I heard.
Yes, sir, I could. In fact, my master, I thought it was rather unkind of him. He tied a belt, rope, not sure what you would call it, like a girdle around me. Had me pulling logs on the river, on the bay right there, on the Chesapeake, close by where we lived, But he was so proud that I was strong enough to do that, and the men standing around watching, they was cheering. They was cheering because they never seen such a strong woman as me. Now, I didn't think that was very good, but that's what Master told me to do, so I didn't have no choice but to do it.
Well, I think I know the answer to this next question, but...
Well, then why you going to ask it?
Well, I want to hear your answer. Did you get any education?
Education? I'm a slave. Now, it's against the law, teach a slave how to read and write. Of course, now there are some that can, but their masters or whoever taught them, they usually get in a heap of trouble. They did at that time. That was, before the war.
Did you live with your parents most of this time?
Mm-hmm. I lived with my parents, and you talking about during my growing up days.
Right.
Yes, we was one of the lucky families that, we didn't all get to stay together because Master Brodus on one New Year's Day sold off two of my sisters. Sold them off to the deep south. I have never seen them again in life, even to this day.
How difficult was that for your parents and for you?
It was very hard. How'd you like to have somebody that you love growed up with be sold away from you? How'd you like to be sold, period?
Did you get any religion growing up?
I'm a very religious woman even to this day. I have a strong faith in the good Lord. I have a very strong faith in the good Lord because he has kept me all these years. All these years.
Was that something your parents made sure you knew about, that they were teaching about?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we had a little preacher man on the neighboring plantation come around, and we'd have meetings and whatnot, and he'd teach us about the word. So, and my mom and my papa, they was believers. They still is believers. That word and that belief and that faith, I reckon is what you can call it, it helped us get through a lot of hard, bad times. Mm-hmm. Being a slave was hard.
Of all the different things about being a slave, what do you think was the most difficult for you?
It was all difficult. In looking back at it and thinking about it, I guess the most difficult thing was not being in charge of your person. You can't be in charge of yourself. You understand what I'm trying to say? Somebody always telling you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. You can't make no choice for yourself. You don't have no, you don't have no control of your own body or your mind for that matter. Somebody else is always doing your thinking for you, you see.
How about one of the more important things in life, getting married? Did you have any choice of that? Were you ever married?
Well, yes. What else you want to know? In fact, I'm on husband number 2 right now. We've just been married a short time, but I'm on husband number 2 right now. I guess you want to know what happened to husband number 1.
Yeah, I want to know about husband number 1. First of all, I understand you weren't born with the name Harriet Tubman. What was your birth name?
My slave name. My slave name was Araminta Ross. Araminta. Folks used to call me Minty for short. But you see, when I decided that I was going to be free, I took the name of Harriet to honor my mother. I took it because I was free and I could do what I wanted to. And I wanted to honor myself by calling me after my mama's name, which was Harriet. Now, you asked me something else, but I forgot what it was.
Well, how'd you get Tubman?
Oh, how'd I get to Tubman? Well, back in 1847, I was married to a man whose name was John Tubman. Now, John Tubman was a free man. John Tubman lived on a nearby plantation. He belonged to someone else. But over time, John Tubman had raised or saved or whatever, got enough money to buy his own freedom, probably about $400 or so, buy his freedom from his master. Now, John Tubman, he took a liking to me. He come courting and come calling. Of course, now, he did that with the permission of Master Brodus, you know. And so Master Brodus gave his permission for me and John Tubman to marry up. So in 1847, like I said, we married up in the slave way. Now, do you know what that means?
No.
If you get married up in the slave way, that means you jump the broom. Now, my mama, I told you her name was Harriet Green Ross. My mama told me that jumping the broom was one of the, how would you call it? I believe she called it a tradition that come with us from Africa when they brung us all the way over here all them years ago. I believe it was in the 1600s when the first of us come to this country. Well, my mama said that back when she was in Africa, and well, she wasn't, but that's where she come from. When folks got married, they would jump over the broom. And that would let everybody know that they was married. Now, we kept that tradition, even though the masters took away our language, our religion, the way we dress and everything else. But they allowed us to keep that tradition of jumping the broom because I guess it wouldn't hurt nothing. How's jumping over a broom going to hurt anything? So me and John Tubman, we married up in that way in 1847. But in 1849, when I decided that I was going to be free, because I told you John Tubman was a free man. When I decided I was going to be free, I said to John Tubman, do you want to be free with me on free soil? John Tubman said he was already free, so he wasn't going nowhere. I said, well, I ain't free, so I left.
I'm curious, how does it work that your husband is free and you're not free? You continue to work for your master. He had no obligations to a master at all?
He had an obligation to his master, his former master, you better believe that. Because even though he was a free man, he hired himself out. Now, do you know what hiring out is? Okay. He hired himself out, and with the money that he got paid, he gives some to the master and keeps some for himself, you know. Because he had to give some to the master for, I guess you'd call it room and board and upkeep and all of that, and then he kept a few dollars or whatever for his own self. Now, me and John Tubman, because I'm a slave. You know, folks say when you get married, you belong to your husband, you belong to your wife. I belong to Master Brodus. That's who I belong to. So Master Brodus, he have to give permission, even though me and John Tubman is married, for him to come call and spend time and all of that with me. He had to get Master Brodus's or his own ex-master's permission to spend time. And of course, when he comes see me, I always have to have a pass on him to allow him to be off of that property, and also a pass that says that he's a free man of color.
Was there any talk of him purchasing your freedom ever?
No, John Tubman, I think he was just content to be free where he was at.
I know you didn't have any children. What would have happened if you did have children?
Well, how would you call it? The place of the child. I think the word would be the status. The status of the child is determined by the status of the mother. So if I'm having a child and I'm a slave, my child is a slave too, you see.
Okay.